May 14, 2008, Marshall, Minnesota. For most people, it was just another spring night. For Brandon Swanson, it was the last night anyone ever saw him. Brandon was 19 years old, tall, thin, with an easy smile and plans for college in the fall. That evening, he'd been celebrating the end of the school year with friends. Nothing unusual, no fights, no strange behavior. Around midnight, he decided to head home. He lived in Marshall. His plan was simple: drive back, sleep, and start the summer. But instead of taking the usual road, Brandon took a series of back roads. Why? No one knows. Friends later said he wasn't drunk, wasn't upset, just driving. By 1:30 a.m., his headlights cut through empty farmland. No traffic, no houses, just fields stretching out into darkness. Somewhere out there, he made a wrong turn. He didn't know it yet, but the road ahead would never lead him home. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. But Brandon Swanson wasn't driving in a straight line. Instead of heading west toward home, his black Chevy Lumina drifted north, deeper into the rural grid of southwestern Minnesota. No streetlights, no landmarks, just an endless patchwork of dirt roads and open fields. The GPS signal out there, almost useless. Phone reception, barely holding on. At around 1:45 a.m., Brandon's tires left pavement for gravel, then gravel for dirt. The road narrowed. The fields seemed to press in from both sides. Somewhere out there, he passed an unmarked intersection, and in his rearview mirror, a single set of headlights appeared. Far back, small, but steady. Brandon later told his parents on the phone that he thought he saw a light in the distance. He didn't say if it was a housey or something else. By 2 a.m., his car jolted, hard. The front wheels dipped suddenly. The engine roared, then stalled. When he stepped out to look, the Chevy was stuck, straddling the edge of a shallow ditch. The air was cold, the road was silent. And somewhere, those far-off headlights had disappeared. 20:17 a.m., Brandon Swanson pulled out his phone and called home. On the other end, his father, Brian, answered, groggy but concerned. Brian, hey, what's going on? Brandon, I went into a ditch. I'm fine, but I need a ride. At first, it sounded simple. He said he thought he was near the small town of Lind, about 10 minutes from home. The plan was easy. His parents would drive out, pick him up, and they'd all go to bed. But as Brian drove toward Lind, nothing matched Brandon's description. No intersections where they should be. No landmarks that lined up. Brian, I'm flashing my headlights. Do you see me? Brandon, no, I don't see you either, but I can see this big light way off in the distance. They tried to pinpoint where he was by naming streets, turns, and farm signs, but each time Brandon would say, no, that's not here. Though at one point Brandon laughed lightly and said, I can hear water somewhere out here, and there's something moving in the field. His parents thought he meant an animal, but the way he said it wasn't casual. For nearly 45 minutes, they talked on the phone, headlights searching, until Brandon finally suggested, I'm just gonna walk toward that light I see. Stay on the phone with me. Somewhere in the background, Brian thought he heard another set of footsteps. Brandon Swanson was walking toward a light in the distance. His parents stayed on the phone, guiding him where they could. But out there in the empty farmland, the night has its own rules. Brian, you still see it. Brandon, yeah, but it's farther than I thought. But his voice was steady, but his breathing had changed. Slightly faster, more alert. Every few seconds, there was another sound, a faint crack in the dark like a branch snapping. Too heavy for a rabbit, too slow for the wind. Brian, what was that? Brandon, probably just a deer. Then, as Brandon reached a wire fence, the sound came again, closer. And this time Brian heard it too. A second set of footsteps. Brandon stopped walking. The call went quiet except for the faint hiss of wind over the phone's mic. Brandon, hello. There was no answer. Only the sound of breathing, not his own, barely audible, just beyond the fence line. He whispered, almost to himself, it's not a deer. Brandon had stopped by the fence. His parents waited on the line, listening, straining for anything that would tell them what was out there. Brandon, just keep talking to me. We'll find you. Brandon, I'm fine, He broke off suddenly. A muffled rustle came through the phone, like someone brushing against tall grass fast. Brian, what is it? "Brandon, something's moving closer." His voice dropped lower. "Dad, it's in the field with me." Brian could hear him moving now, walking faster, breathing harder, the sound of the fence rattling as he ducked under it. For a few seconds, nothing but footsteps and wind. Then, a sharp snap behind him. Brandon breathing hard. Oh, so the line went dead. Brian and his wife tried calling back immediately, over and over. The phone rang, no one answered. By morning, there was no sign of Brandon Swanson. No trail in the grass, no footprints in the dirt road, only an open field and the silence. By 6 a.m., the fields where Brandon had last been heard were crawling with search teams, officers, volunteers, dogs. But the night had taken whatever trail there was. At first, searchers found nothing. No dropped phone, no wallet, no torn clothing. Even the grass looked undisturbed, as if no one had walked there at all. The only clue was the location data from Brandon's last call, which pinged off a tower near the tiny town of Taunton. Miles from where he thought he was, the scent dogs followed a faint trail from the ditch where his car had been found. It wound along the dirt road through a small grove of trees and ended at the edge of a shallow creek. On the other side of the creek was a flat expanse of farmland, wide open, empty. No tracks on the far bank. It was as if he had stepped into the water and never come out. Searchers waded in, expecting to find something, anything. But the creek was barely knee-deep. No one could vanish there, not without help. As the day wore on, a deputy noticed something odd half a mile from the creek. In a patch of tall grass was a single item, a black shoe, the same brand and size Brandon was wearing. But there was no second shoe, no footprints leading to it, just the shoe, sitting in the middle of the field. By the third day of searching, the mood had changed. The optimism was gone, and some of the volunteers began to notice things they couldn't explain. One man said he saw movement in the cornfield, a tall shape that seemed to slip between the rows without bending a single stalk. Another swore he heard a voice calling faintly from the distance, but when he stopped to listen, the field went completely silent. That night, a searcher working near the creek reported something stranger. He'd been combing the bank with a flashlight when the beam landed on a figure standing in the shallows, motionless. It looked like a man, tall, thin, wearing dark clothes. The light hit its face, but there were no features, just smooth skin. When the searcher shouted, the figure stepped backward and sank into the water without a ripple. The next morning, deputies found fresh boot prints leading from the creek toward the dirt road. They weren't Brandon's size, they were larger. Much larger. The prints ended in the middle of the road. No turn, no drag marks, no second set leading away, as if something had simply stopped existing. And when the team gathered that night, one of the volunteers said quietly, "We're not alone out here." Weeks turned into months. The fields turned green, then gold, then brown again. And still there was no sign of Brandon Swanson. His parents never stopped searching. They walked the back roads in every season, called his name into the cornfields, stood by the shallow creek where the trail had ended, always hoping for a voice in reply. But the only answer was the wind. Every year on May 14th, people gather in Marshall to remember him. Some bring flashlights, others bring flowers, and a few bring something else. Stories. Stories about driving those same roads late at night and seeing a figure walking along the ditch, talking quietly into a phone. When they slow down to look, he's gone. One farmer swears that on a foggy morning, he saw a young man in a black hoodie standing by his fence line. The man raised a hand, not waving, just pointing toward the creek. When the farmer blinked, the man wasn't there. Officially, Brandon Swanson is still listed as a missing person. Unofficially, he's part of the farmland now. So if you ever find yourself driving the back roads near Taunton, Minnesota, after dark and your GPS cuts out and the road turns from pavement to gravel to dirt, don't stop. Don't get out. And if your phone rings, you might not want to answer. A fade to silence. Then faintly in the distance, Brandon's voice. "Dad, it's in the field with me."